Palisade Global Investments is pleased to present the Hard Asset Conference on Jekyll Island, with keynote addresses by Eric Sprott and Dr. Edward Griffin, author of The Creature from Jekyll Island. The event will be sponsored by Triumph Gold Corp, currently drilling its 100% owned Free Gold Mountain project in the Yukon, and by Mexican Gold Corp, just weeks away from publishing its maiden resource on its Las Minas Gold project in Veracruz State, Mexico. Come join us at the Jekyll Island Club from October 19th till the 22nd. The event is limited to just 50 participants. Visit palisadeconference.com for more information. Welcome back to another episode of Palisade Radio. This is your host, Colin Cattell. Today on the program is a new guest. He's Kevin Harrington. He's an entrepreneur, investor, and original shark on the hit show Shark Tank. He's also a pioneer in the infomercial world, and he's the CEO of Kevin Harrington Enterprises. Kevin, welcome to the program.
Colin, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I got to tell you that Shark Tank is one of my favorite shows. I've watched probably 90% of the episodes, and it's great to get somebody on who fosters entrepreneurial ideas in such a wide-ranging way, and somebody who's climbed so far up the ladder and is such a successful investor. Do you mind touching just briefly on some points of your background, maybe how you got on the Shark Tank show? It's probably fascinating.
Sure. Okay. So, it dates back. I'll just say that I was a shark for dozens of years before Shark Tank, okay? Because when I started in the scene and TV business back in the early 80s, I was watching TV and the screens went dark, and then I went to the TV station and said, you're an 18-hour-a-day network. It was the Discovery Channel, and I started filling their downtime. And so I started putting products on. So we had fitness products with Tony Little and kitchen products with Jack LaLanne, and we ended up doing some things with Kris Jenner and fitness things, and then George Foreman, and all of a sudden we're selling tons of products. But the bottom line is that I used to go to trade shows, and I would get pitched at the trade shows. I'd sit there with a team of my people, usually one or two people, one on each side of me, and we'd say, okay, we'd line them up, and they would pitch us, their product at the houseware show, the hardware show, the fitness show, the beauty show, wherever it was. And so we were taking these pitches and investing in deals, which is basically what Shark Tank is. So Mark Burnett heard about that, and I actually had filmed a bunch of these. And it was, you could almost look at what we were doing and say, it looks like a low budget version of the show Shark Tank. And that's what it was. So, and we would give them a green light or red light or a maybe light. The yellow is, caution, maybe we're interested. And so, when we started doing all this, Mark Burnett called and said, hey, why don't you come on out? I'm doing this TV show called Shark Tank. And obviously it's got a little bit of, TV personality to it with some of the sharks, as they say, Mr. Wonderful, right? Kevin O'Leary and Barbara Corcoran. It's been a fun show and had a great time. But basically, I cut my teeth on investing in inventions and people that own products, and I would, in the early days, either partner with them or license it and pay them a royalties at different structures. And then I would finance the manufacturing, the production of the infomercial, and then the media buying. And that's how we made our money then, is we sold the product direct to the consumer and paid back the royalties or the profits back to our partner.
Fantastic. Well, for any of our viewers who are interested in how Shark Tank originated, we're talking to Kevin here, who's obviously instrumental in that. In fact, Kevin, we've had a guy on the show. He was actually the first person we ever had on the show, named Don Cox, and he's Bank of Montreal's head strategist for personal wealth management, and he's a big gold guy. His son is the producer of Dragon's Den, which is obviously a similar show up in Canada.
Yep.
But question for you, since we're a gold-focused show, gold, cryptocurrencies, both two things that are alternatives of fiat currency. Let's start with maybe cryptocurrencies because they are exploding today.
So, I have watched the crypto market just take off, and, the good news is I got in and I got out at a better place than when I got in. So buy low, sell high is what I love. But, it's gone so high now that, you just don't know what is there a ceiling or there's going to be a correction. So, I think it seems like, it's been very robust of late. And, I think I said, the good news is I've made my money in it so far. And I think there's probably more conservative things that are on the horizon for us. And, maybe gold is one of those, right? So, I think that I'm a very solid believer in the crypto world. And I think that some of these ICOs that are coming out with new coin offerings might still have some opportunity also. So, I'm not saying I'm not getting involved in crypto. I definitely am still interested in crypto opportunities.
I'm going to flip a chart over to you later in the day that I just told you about. I know you haven't seen it, so you can't verify this point, but I just saw a piece that said that the ICOs, which, as you just mentioned, are the initial coin offerings, have exceeded worldwide in June and July all of the angel and seed venture capital funding for the last 2 months, which is an incredible thing to think about. And like you said, unless the libertarian sci-fi novels come true that the dollar dies and cryptos take over, it's hard to imagine that there's not going to be some type of a pullback in sight.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm looking forward to seeing those charts because you're telling me some mind-blowing numbers actually, if those are accurate, which I'm sure they are. But it's an interesting world, and I've been actually following some of these new ICOs that are coming out, and so I think certainly Bitcoin seems to be at such a peak right now. It'll be interesting to see if some of these other newer ones have a chance to have some good success.
Well, Kevin, the context of our call today is that we're both invested in a couple public companies listed up in Canada. Before I get into those two, I wanted to ask you, you're such a successful investor. You gave us a bit of your background on the Shark Tank format of investing, your background in the online or infomercial world, on TV infomercial world. What is it that you look for in a small cap investment, or what is it that a small cap company needs to do in order to be successful? I know that's a very general, wide-ranging question, hard to answer.
Yeah, so I look for a couple things. Number one, I like to see proof of concept. So in an ideal scenario, their business model is already proven, and I don't have to see cash flow if they've somehow it's nice to see cash flow, but if I'm not opposed to putting money into something so that we can create the cash flow if we've seen proof of concept. And so I think that's, helpful. Now, I've also, one of the best scenarios that I can find is when somebody is not only has proof of concept, but they've now had maybe some ads that they've been running, and they're at a point of seeing that, okay, we've identified a customer acquisition cost. Okay, the CAC, customer acquisition cost, or CAC. Okay, if you've identified that and you can show that the lifetime value of the customer is, a much bigger multiple of that. So it costs you $50 to acquire a customer that's worth $300, but now we just need the money so we can go get those $50 customers. I love to finance those kinds of situations or get involved in investing in deals like that, where they've defined where they are and they have a clear path to growth. So those are the sweet spot kinds of things for me, is when I see there's proof of concept in a unique positioning of the situation. And I say, do they solve a problem that is uniquely being solved, right? And then have they proven it? And then have they identified their customer acquisition cost so that I know that once we start putting the capital into the company, we can then focus on building the business through customer acquisition. And then, then from there, it all just falls into place.
Well, let's apply that to Lottogo Holdings, which is a company that you're on the board of, and you've also been on shows like BNN to talk about what you think is the prospect there. It's essentially modeling itself after a company out of Europe that's managed to bring the lottery purchasing process online out of the archaic system of having to go and buy a lottery ticket physically. Just anything you have to add on Lottogo for what you see there, why you like it?
Yeah, I mean, think about this. When Uber came out, they revolutionized the taxi industry by creating, a digital world of a mobile app. And Airbnb created, a similar situation for the hotel industry. But today, if you want to go buy a lottery ticket, you got to go wait in line and you pay cash. Okay, it's the most ridiculous thing in the world when I think about it, right? The big Mega Millions is coming out, and you've got to stand in line maybe for an hour, 2 hours. Physically, you can't just go online and get the ticket. So LottoGopher is now addressing that problem, solving the problem, and they have identified a customer acquisition cost that works. So that was what attracted me to what they're doing. Is it, I say, Uber Eats is something that's come along here recently. I use them. They go pick up. I order the food. They pick it up and bring it to my door. But LottoGopher is a similar thing. You want a lottery ticket? They'll get you the lottery ticket. Put it in your account. And it only makes sense that people will be willing to do this because people buy $70 billion worth of lottery tickets a year. So, and the other thing is 2 billion of them go unclaimed, believe it or not. So now with LottoGopher, all your winnings are going to be showing up in your account, so you're not going to forget about it or not know that you've got it, right? So it's a win-win all the way around. It's a great concept modeled after a group in Europe, as you mentioned, and we're on the ground floor. We just got started, IPO in May on the Canadian Stock Exchange. And so we're just now deploying some of those assets and starting to grow the business. But from my side, I'm not on the day-to-day. I'm a board member and advisor and enjoying myself immensely with the opportunity.
I don't know if this is true, but the lottery would seem to be one of those recession-proof businesses. Not that we're going to be going into a recession, but for people concerned that might be the case, precious metals investors. Interesting that the lottery is something that people seem to play maybe even more in bad times than during good times.
I think it probably, seems like, I know people that have liquor stores, and they say that liquor stores, are always busy, good or bad. And I think, people buy lottery tickets at liquor stores and convenience stores, gas stations, all over the place. I see it as a great business. Because everybody's, loves to think about the opportunity and having that golden pot at the end of the rainbow. And I believe that the lottery is certainly, it's the states that do it, the Mega Millions now, pots, these things, because of all the promotion that they do, I see it as a very long-term successful industry that seems to be growing and here to stay for many, many years. So people enjoy playing the lottery also. And it's not always just the big, winning. Some people are winning $1 million pots and $50,000 pots and other numbers. And a lot of golfers had some of that too.
Well, the other company I wanted to talk to you about, Kevin, it's very much so based on the idea of being able to acquire customers and build a base and partnering with the right people is BetterU Education, which is taking online teaching to a huge new frontier, if you will, being India. What is it that you see so interesting about BetterU? You're on the board of advisors there as well.
Yes. Yeah, so what I like about what BetterU is doing is they, first of all, India is, I've been down there a number of times. it's 1 billion plus people. There's a huge middle class down there also, 600 plus million. And it's if you come up with something that works, and this is what BetterU has been working on, and they've come up with some great programs, then you have the ability to have it go unbelievably viral to many people across the country there. So I think India is a great place. It's underserved in terms of this kind of educational content. And I'm actually going to be going down there first week of October for BetterU to make a tour of a couple cities down there and hang out with the BetterU folks. And they've brought some really good people into the company, and I think they've got a good vision, a good plan, and just again, it's another business that's just getting started. But these are the kinds of things that I look for, is when you get in on the ground floor of some of these are, they're kind of at the beginning of what I call a great, growth opportunity. So, the both stocks, I believe, and this is just my own personal opinion, but I just believe that they're poised for growth, and I'm looking forward to seeing some good growth in both of those companies.
Excellent. Well, we booked 30 minutes of your time, and we're about up. I've got one last question for you, Kevin. Always try to ask the opinion of different people coming on the show, what they think about the market conditions in the U.S. Dow is reaching all-time highs, and a lot of people looking for yield can't safely find it, and people looking to make investments have trouble finding things at discounts right now. What is your thought on the overall economy?
Well, I'm in the business of selling products to consumers on a direct basis. I've been doing that for 30 years, and I've seen some dips over the years, and we've had some ups and downs in our industry with some slow times and some, not depressions, but, certainly some times that, things became tough. And our industry is from the standpoint of selling online and direct to the consumer the way we do. It's a very bullish industry, and that's my way of getting a pulse on the economy. So I feel very strongly about where we are right now. I think it seems to be at a pretty good level. So hopefully, I don't know. It's hard to predict the sustainability, of going forward, but I think that's kind of part of the business that you're in is giving, more long-term stability to investments, and part of the reason why you're in commodities and gold. And I believe that's also a good, stable way to hedge yourself too. So, but from the standpoint of my industry and the business I'm in, it's very solidly holding very well, selling well. Most categories, the home, people have been loving home products because they're investing in their homes, they're investing in the future, that they're staying home and eating at home and buying a lot of kitchen products. And, so I think there's a lot of good industries that are doing very, very well for us here in the States, for sure.
Excellent. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on Palisade Radio. It's been a pleasure having you here, and hope to get you back on the program some point in the future.
Great to be here, Colin. Thanks, and I hope everybody enjoyed our talk today. It's good catching up with you.
Think you understand the junior mining sector, and you think that the participants in the mining sector, junior mining sector, are good people and kind people, hit the bid.
How violent that term could be? It actually could be quite violent. It could be a rip-your-face-off uranium rally.
And the world is always going to need raw materials. It's going to need copper and gold and nickel and so forth.
Totally destabilized. Hey, Troll, did you hear what's going on in Yemen?